In this video, I want to look at all of the rules that we have when it comes to exponents. You also may see something called the law of exponents. And those things, the laws or the rules, the words don't matter. It's all of the things mathematically that we can do with exponents. So I have a bunch of them listed out. The first rule is what happens when you multiply same bases. There should be shortcuts here. Now ideally, 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 squared is 2 more 2's, and then I can multiply them all up together. Well, sometimes looking at all of those bases gets overwhelming, so there should be a shortcut, and there is. Whenever the bases are the same, and we're multiplying, you add the exponents up. That becomes 2 to the 5th. So if I have 3 copies of a 2 and then 2 more, I have 5 total. The second rule says I have a power, 2 squared, raised to another power. So this exponent says I have 3 copies of 2 squared. And then 2 squared says I have 2 copies of 2. Again, there's a lot of numbers to write down. So what's the shortcut? Anytime you have a power or an exponent raised to a power or another exponent, you're allowed to multiply them. So that becomes 2 to the 6th. Division. If I have common bases or the same base, this is 2 cubed. That means there's 3 copies of 2 and there's 2 on the bottom. There should be a shortcut on what we're allowed to do with all of those 2's. And the shortcut is you're allowed to subtract those exponents. 2 to the 1st power. Inside parentheses, right? Remember PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. P means parenthesis. I can't do anything here. The E now means apply the exponent. Whenever we are multiplying inside of parentheses with an exponent out here, what we're really saying is take that exponent and apply it to everything on the inside. Now technically these are invisible ones, and so I have x to the 1st power raised to another power. And then up here we said to multiply those powers. So really what I'm doing is I'm taking 2 times this invisible 1, x squared. Same thing here, 2 times this invisible 1, y squared. So it feels like a distributive step when it comes to our exponents. 2 multiplied into this invisible 1. Over here, it's kind of the same thing, except now we have division. I have x on top with a power of 1 and a 4 outside. I have to distribute through the 4 as an exponent to each term, however many terms you have. I only have 2 terms here. I could have had 50 terms. 50 on top, 50 on the bottom. That 4 needs to go to everything, including constants and numbers. So when this gets simplified, it gets x to the 4th over y to the 4th. Anything raised to the 0 power is a rule we got to start remembering. This simplifies into a 1. Now anything raised to a 0 power is a strong statement. Anything. 1 million raised to the 0 power is 1. So keep that in mind. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. First time that we've seen a negative exponent, and there's a way to rewrite this correctly. A lot of times your practice problems want exponents in positive form. So squares, 1s, 6s, 5s, those are all positive values. So I need to rewrite any negative as a positive. And the way you do that is you turn them in to fractions typically, meaning this already is x over 1. And so if I want to turn that into a fraction, I really flip it upside down and put the x on the bottom, make the 3 positive. Let's say, for example, I have 1 over x negative 2. Well, I want positive exponents. And so if I flipped the prior example, I must have to flip this example as well. And that's what you do. So if you flip this around, x becomes on top, make the negative positive, and I've rewritten it with a positive exponent. A lot of rules to start to remember. And a lot of times your examples want you to combine multiple rules. So just take your time, pay attention to what's being asked, and remember, bases are the same, you add. Power to a power, you multiply. When there's division, you subtract. When there's an exponent outside of the parentheses, distribute that through. Same thing with number 5. Doesn't matter if it's a fraction or if it's a multiply statement. Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. Negative exponents get rewritten, and they depend on where they are located. This was a numerator, became a denominator. This was a denominator, became a numerator. All those rules need to start being memorized so when you practice, you get those questions right.